Hi there. Welcome to Ben and Barry on football. This is our introduction show. This is where we have an opportunity to introduce who we are, talk about where we've come from, why we're doing this show, and give you some idea about whatever credentials we might have relative to football. Um, and we'll talk a little bit about even the picture in the background because obviously I don't look like that anymore, and he don't. He doesn't look like that anymore. But we just wanted to let people know that we aren't new to this game. We've been around football for a long, long time, and we always let people know that we are first and foremost, besides being best friends, we are football fans. Although I'm a Niner fan,
And I'm a New York Giants fan.
so should I say San Francisco 49ers? Since you're going to add the city in there,
Say what you want.
there you go.
New York Football Giants.
New York Football Giants. And so that pick is actually from 1983. This is July 6, 2018. I'm not even trying to do the math on that, but that's a long time ago. We played in a number of, we played in a couple different leagues together back in those days. That happens to be championship day, right?
Yes, it is.
And we're still clean, so I guess that's before the game.
Yeah, that was before the game, definitely.
Yeah. And you got your finger up, and we did actually win that game. So we are champions. Ben has a lot more championships beyond that. We played in we both worked for the what's now Verizon, what at the time was Bell of Pennsylvania. There was a Bell Telephone League at that time. I met Ben at work and got invited out to a game. He's playing in a game. I go out to watch him. This is why I blame him for actually getting me back into playing football. And I went to see you guys play. And we were at some desolate field up in the northeast section of Philadelphia. I do believe it was fall.
Okay.
And there was absolutely nobody out there beside me. It was an 8-man game.
Right.
You guys showed up with seven guys. And you guys start looking around like, oh, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And you look over and you see this Rube standing on the sideline. Me. Okay, I'm down. So I come out. We join the game.
And the rest is history.
And the rest is history, absolutely. So I'll run through a couple things about myself. We'll go back and forth. I'm probably more the academic of the two. I've got an MBA. I've got a BS in management. I've got associates in computer science and electronic engineering. What that has to do with football, it only means that I kind of look at things maybe from a more academic perspective, which is why I do produce the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings, and that is in itself an academic look at the football and what happens with teams, and we've been able to track why we've been able to track so closely who winds up in the playoffs all the way through to the Super Bowl, and actually give people some great information and why the bias goes, what I call the bias, goes toward any one team or the other. As I said, we played together in the Philadelphia Tough Touch Football League, which is no longer a touch league, right? Tell me a little more about that league
correct.
right now.
The league's been around since 1963. It's been running consistently since 1963. That's a really, really long time. However, over the years, Rough Touch has become a little too physical for the younger athletes of the day. So in an effort to keep the league alive, because we were slowly losing teams, we switched over to flag football, which nationally is the most accepted type of recreational football out there now, all over. So it's not just in Philadelphia. So we kind of followed the trend. The league's picked up. Going into this, I believe this spring season, we finished with 12 teams, and we expect to have 14 teams in the fall. So the core teams are hanging in there, and we're still attractive to outside teams coming over from other leagues that are looking for more competition or better competition. As far as I'm concerned, and I've been around up and down the East Coast, played a lot of places and tournaments and such, which I'll talk about a little bit later also. We are the preeminent flag football league in the tri-state area, at least.
At the very least, In addition to having played together in a couple of different leagues and did a lot of pickup games back in the day, we also coached together. And we coached Little League together. We coached in the Philadelphia area with the Oak Lane Wildcats. Went to 2 championships, I do believe. I think we played twice at Franklin Field, the infamous.
I think we did go to Franklin Field twice. Yes.
Yeah, Franklin Field. We did not win.
No, we didn't.
We did not win.
Kids had fun though.
The kids had a lot of fun, and we actually were pretty innovative. I don't know of any other Little League team that ran the swinging gate.
The swinging gate.
Love it. Oh man, that had to be so much fun. They actually called that back on us, right?
Yeah.
And that was the refs.
I think we tricked the refs.
Yeah. it was more than their mind could handle at the time.
We tricked the opponent and the refs, and they just kind of freaked out.
Yeah. But they executed the hell out of it.
Yes, they did.
Yes, they did. They sure enough did. My son also, I've got, let's talk about family a little bit. I've got 4 children, 2 of which have junior Olympic gold medals in track and field. My daughter in the long jump, my son in the 4x100 relay. Those medals, if you happen to look over to the side there, you see a bigger medal, you might want to just grab one real quick. Here? Yep. And you show people that, So this is the junior Olympic gold medal. There we go. That my 2 children were able to accomplish. Neither one went on to, follow through at higher levels. They had their fun and did their thing back then. My son did play football a little in college, played through high school. He was an all-city. Also, he broke the Roxborough High School all-time rushing records. And I do believe had they tracked the multi-purpose yardage, he might have had that record too, since he played defense, he ran back kicks, he played quarterback. So he had all types of, yardage.
Yeah, at least if they added on the kickoff returns, punt returns, and quarterback stats.
Yeah. It might have been a whole nother level. I also am a member of the PTTFL Hall of Fame. Ben's still active since he's still coaching, so you haven't been inducted yet, have you?
No, they kind of have they don't kind of have. There's a rule that you have to be inactive with the league for at least 2 or 3 years. That usually goes specifically for players, because sometimes players will miss a year and then they'll come back. And, so they kind of want you to be away from it for at least a minimum of 2 years. And I've been in constantly since I started playing. I transitioned right over
to coaching, and as coach of number league. Tell us a little bit about some of your coaching exploits and accomplishments.
When I decided to call it quits as a player, I got a phone call a couple of months later from one of the coaches that I played for, Eddie English, who said that he was breaking away from the team that we both played for.
Rest in peace.
That team there, yes. The Jaguars, and decided to start a new team, and he wanted me to come over and help him coach. So I agreed. Absolutely.
I didn't know that was from Eddie. That's sort of new to me.
Yeah. So I agreed, and we came over, and we put together a really good team. We were successful right away, which doesn't happen very often. I believe we went to the fall championship.
What team was that?
Our first year. This is the Falcons.
That was the Falcons. Okay.
Yes. There is a team called the Falcons in the league now. So you may hear me say the original Falcons.
Okay.
We won Fall League championships in 1990 and 1993. And in the late 80s, we went to championships and lost, but we won those two. And in between 88 and 94, we probably won so many Spring League championships that I can't remember.
Yeah, these guys play football year round.
Play year
so
round.
When they say
Yeah.
football's never over, it's never over in the PTTFL.
Yeah.
And that also includes tournament ball.
That also includes tournament ball. A lot of people don't know this. A lot of people in our league, because, you know, I've been in for a long time, and there's been a lot of turnover with players. So there's a lot of younger guys in there now. I'm the winningest coach in this league on the road.
Really?
In tournaments, yeah. I have won the AFTFL Northeast Nationals, which was held up in Princeton, New Jersey, twice. Won the USFTL Summer Nationals held in Virginia Beach twice. Won the MCFFU Summer Nationals, also which was in Virginia Beach. Won that once. Competed in New York City, Long Island, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., all over Maryland. Maryland is the hotbed of flag football. I got to give them a shout out. There's so many teams down there, and so many really, really good teams.
Really?
Yeah. So I got to give them a shout out. Nationals is usually held in Florida. Been there several times. Haven't been able to come away with a national championship, but I have those NIT wins, and they're all in the pro division or the A division, which is the highest level of flag football also. After my team, the Falcons, had some internal strife, I was asked to come over and help coach the Seminoles. That is the team that I'm currently coaching. I kept the team on after the other coaches stopped playing. Both of whom are in the Hall of Fame, Rocky and Vern.
Yeah, he's a shoe man.
Yeah, so I wanted to keep it going because, you know, we had influx of young guys, and I'm a football lifer, so that just went on. Seminoles won fall championships in 95, 98, 2001, and 2002. Our last championship was the Spring League Championship in 2012. Since then, I kind of got a really totally new, young base of players. So we're kind of trying to get back to our winning ways, but the guys compete and we have a good time. That's basically where I'm at right now.
Yeah, and we didn't mention that we both played football in high school. I played a little bit at Cardinal Doherty High School in Philadelphia.
I played at Germantown High School, also in Philadelphia.
Played at Germantown High School.
So he played in the Catholic League. I played in the Public League.
Yeah. And so moving on, just to talk a little bit on a slightly different angle about, you know, what we love about football. Who's your favorite football player?
My favorite football player currently, or my favorite football player of all time?
Let's go with all time.
My favorite football player of all time is Gail Sayers.
And my favorite football player of all time is Gail Sayers.
That wasn't scripted.
That was not scripted. We didn't know that until we started talking about doing this show. And it's really absolutely crazy. You know, sometimes until you start to talk to somebody, you really don't know how much you have in common. I'll throw out one extreme example of this. We were playing in the PTTFL. We went to championship with my cousin.
Oh, yeah, right.
And here I am forgetting the name, right? How do I forget my cousin? Well, actually, because his dad played with the Jets.
Okay.
Junior.
Right.
And we are talking about. So yeah, the name jumped out of my head, but it's Johnny Sample Jr. who was our safety in the year that we played
Right.
football. And it wasn't until we were actually over Ben's house after a game, having some beers, talking about, you know, family and everything. And he happened to mention that he had family from Virginia, the samples. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I got family from Virginia, the Maps. And he's like, well, wait a minute, we're related to the Maps. And I'm like, holy mackerel. So we've been playing together for all of this time, not knowing we were distant cousins. He's the son of of Johnny Sample, who played with Joe Namath on the championship team for the New York Jets.
That is correct.
So again, you never know until you actually get to talk to people, you know, how you're connected. And I just think that that's absolutely amazing. And we didn't know that Gale Sayers was our favorite player of all time. My favorite Niner, I am a Niner fan, is Ronnie Lott. You know, anybody who would cut his finger off to stay in the game, he's got to be the man. There's no doubt about it. Ronnie Lott was just, you know, I mean, he changed the game, and he changed games, you know, with his physicality and his hits. What about you? Your favorite Giant or my current favorite?
My favorite New York Giant of all time is the original LT, Lawrence Taylor. I mean, he made such a mark on the game and changed the position and what's expected of you at the linebacker position to be considered a great linebacker. And there have been a lot of guys to follow, but he's the blueprint.
He's the blueprint. It's strangely enough, you know, our favorite player of all time, being the same guy, is an offensive player, but our favorite team players are defensive players.
Isn't that crazy?
We were defensive coaches when we coached together.
Guys, absolutely.
And so that is awful, you know, interesting that that came about like that. Now, one of the things that that I want to mention, you know, is that I'm a fan of systems. So if you wonder why I am a Niner fan, it's because, you know, in my business background, we used to talk about business systems all the time. And so as I was growing in my football awareness, I became aware of, you know, the Niners having one of the preeminent football systems of all time, the West Coast offense. And so as I began to focus in on the Niners and realize the benefits of having a system, like for one of the things I always like to talk about is so many times you see a team say, well, we're going to get the best athlete, you know, and when you have a strong system, you get the best player to fill in the role for that system, you know. And I used to talk about my other favorite team in basketball, which is the Bulls. They played the triangle, right? And when they needed to go get another player, they didn't go get any player. They got the player that they needed. So when you got Jordan, you don't necessarily need a scorer. They needed a rebounder, and they needed the defense player. And so they went and got a guy like Dennis Rodman, you know, when Horace Grant was no longer there. So you get the player that fits the system, that makes your system work. And so my Sterling theorem, which I have a number of them, is that the teams that have the strongest system and the best talent will generally win. And I think that's one of the reasons the Patriots, you know, win so much, because they have a system, you know, and they go get the talent that fits their system. And so most people wonder how they keep winning, and they're like, well, wait a minute, they don't always, like, they got rid of players like Randy Moss, and they still won.
They don't always have big name stars, yet somehow they function better as a team than most other teams that do have big names.
They have big names, and I think that is a function of the fact that they have such a strong system.
Absolutely.
We're going to talk about the Earhart system or whatever. We'll talk about
Earhart Perkins
system.
You can Google that if you want to.
Yeah, and find out, you know, and that's a system that's been used by a number of different teams, including the Giants, you know. And then you've got the Air Coryell system. You know, I just found out today that, or last night, I was watching the special on Madden. On John Madden, and come to find out that how much he was associated with Packer coach Lombardi, right? And ran at Oakland, ran the Lombardi sweep.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, they did.
And
with Art Shell and
all of those guys, right?
Yeah.
And he was connected with Air Coryell,
Yeah.
with Mr. Coryell, the coach, right?
Mhm.
Which accounted for his deep threat approach,
Right.
and it's amazing when you start to see those connections among coaches. Now, moving on to another reason that that we do Ben and Barry on football, and that is the name of the show. I don't think we actually mentioned it. Ben and Barry on football was the name of the show, but if I did, okay. If I didn't, Ben is the fantasy geek of the team. So just talk a little bit about what you do in fantasy, how many leagues you're in, and how many championships you've won in fantasy.
Okay. First of all, fantasy football has been around for a really, really long time. As far as I know, the first really popular sport for fantasy has been fantasy football. I cannot remember off the top of my head when the first guys who kind of invented fantasy football were around, although there are documentaries about it. You may be able to find a 30 for 30 or something. But I started playing in the late 90s, which is quite a while ago. I have since branched off into fantasy baseball, fantasy basketball, and I have even dabbled in fantasy hockey. It's just
amazing.
The fascination of pretending to be an owner and a GM and a coach all wrapped up into one, and being able to manipulate real people via the statistics that they actually put up. It's fascinating to me. And but fantasy football is my first love. I kind of do basketball and baseball just to keep my fantasy child.
And how many football leagues are you in?
Fantasy football leagues.
Yeah.
All right, let me real fast explain this. I want to take a long time. I am in 2 money leagues. Those are leagues that I play with friends. But I have been in upwards of 20 other leagues online. Sometimes I regret doing it because it takes a lot of time to go through each lineup. Football's not that bad because I only play once a month.
Sorry about that.
Okay. But once I get going, I actually dedicate a day or two and a couple of hours each of those 2 days just for manipulating my fantasy lineups. Yeah, I know.
That's crazy.
I mean, what else would I be doing? Watching television? You know what I mean?
The one thing about that, because we argue back and forth about this, because I'll tell you a little bit about what I like to do.
Why don't you tell us what you're a geek about first?
Okay.
Okay. And then
well, no, I was going to.
You can go ahead into your explanation, because what's going to happen is we're going to start arguing now.
No, we're not going to argue about this. Well, no, let me say what I was going to say, which is that what I appreciate is I am terrible with names. I'm sitting here talking about my cousin a minute ago, and I'm like, name, right? I mean, that's how bad I am with names. This guy remembers so many of the individual football players that I really, truly kind of depend on him when I have these little, mind farts, brain farts, whatever you want to call them, about names. So, I'm like, such and such. And he knows all of these players because of fantasy, because he delves into the individuals. So I'm more team-based when I talk about things, and he's definitely more individual-based when he talks about things. Now, my part-time is Madden. I'm a Madden guy. Love playing Madden. I've been playing Madden now since the players looked like Weeble Wobbles.
Yeah, I remember the first first game. It was weird.
I played in some tournaments. I've won championships in some tournaments. I haven't been a big fan of playing people online because they tend to quit. And so I play the game against the game, and the game, doesn't quit, but it will cheat, which leads to another of my Sterling theorems, which is you have to be good enough to beat the cheat. Yeah, yeah.
So when you say that, you mean to say that when you say that, you're talking about a connection between the power rankings and Madden? In other words, do the power rankings sometimes help you with Madden? Or am I off base?
Well, everything's somewhat interactive, but the beat the cheat line came out before I was doing the Sterling net point power rankings.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Because, I mean, literally, you know, like if you're playing Madden, right, and you're playing a team, let's say, especially a higher rated team, because I play with the Niners. I'm pretty much ride and die with my Niners, you know, even when they were rated really low, you know. And in Madden, if you can win with a low rated team, you know, that's even, you know, more props, you know, to you. You come in with a lower rated team, because generally people will pick the highest rated, like the ex-Super Bowl team, you know. Back when I was playing with the Niners and the Seahawks were playing, every time I went online, you could see people scroll up and down until they found the Seahawks. So they figured that's the Niner killer, right? You know, and so literally, can't tell you how many times I've been in situations where, you know, I'm driving downfield, I get within field goal range, right? And you line up to kick the field goal, and the screen changes. All the little things that you normally would rely on, the meters and everything, they all go away all of a sudden.
Okay.
And, you know, it's like, really? You know, you're going to change the screen on me now at the game, you know? But you learn how to deal with that. You pick some points, and, you know, when the screen goes, you kick that field goal, and when you win, you're like, yeah, you know, you got to be good enough to beat the cheat. To beat the cheat, yes. You learn something today. You'll learn a lot on Ben and Barry on football. So, not sure if there's much more that we want to talk about. We've pretty much covered everything that, as far as I can think.
Yeah, I mean, considering that this is our introductory program, we've told you a lot about fantasy and Madden and high school and, you know, flag football and rough touch and all that. But lest we forget, we focus on the NFL. And we focus on the net point power rankings, which is his creation. And I found it so interesting and so fascinating for a number of reasons. Number one, it actually helps me in fantasy. It actually does. And as we really get into this, and hopefully you guys continue to watch, you'll find out how it can help you if you play fantasy football or if you like to gamble.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we condone gambling.
Well, why not? The state does now.
Oh, it's safe to say it now?
It's safe to say, yeah.
Yo, check it out. You might be able to win some money. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I've had some people actually, you know, say some complimentary things relative to that.
Real gamblers.
Real gamblers, yeah. And I'm not much of a gambler. Actually, I'm not a gambler, you know. But we are going to put some money up just for experimental sake at some point during the season, just to kind of see what this is all about and see how we can make those connections.
Right.
Let me mention that Ben and Barry on football, we've got a few social media connections. So I'm going to share some screens here and let you know where you can find us at. So first and foremost, you can find us at Ben and Barry on football on Facebook. And you can like our page. There we go. That's a bit of a better picture of us. You can also find us on Twitter at Ben and Barry on football. That's not my Twitter page. That's a different Twitter page of mine. So we will come out of that and we'll come back in on Ben and Barry on football. Yeah, I do other pages also beside that. And the thing about our Twitter page, I think if you follow us and you begin to connect with any of the people that we're following, I actually like Twitter better than any of the other social media because it's almost a utility in terms of everyone uses Twitter, and they share so much on Twitter, and we're able to follow so many people that are in media, the players, the teams, the management, the league, you know, on Twitter, and it's absolutely amazing. So you can find us on Twitter. Now, we're going to be uploading our videos on YouTube, and so you'll be able to find us on YouTube also. And let's see, now the YouTube channel, there's absolutely nothing on this as right now. This will be the first video that we actually put on YouTube. And so I'm not going to do much to bring that up. But if you go to any of our other Twitter or our Facebook page, you'll be able to find us, find our link for the YouTube page. And I think, you know, it's funny. I can go on Twitter and I can go on Facebook and search out Ben and Barry on football and find it.
Okay.
You go on Twitter and search it, and we get nothing at this particular point. So
I mean on YouTube.
I'm sorry, on YouTube.
Right.
And I guess that's probably because we haven't really put up any content yet. Sure. And so, you know, that's coming, and this again will be the first bit of content that we put up on Twitter. I mean on YouTube. Here I go again. I think I'm hungry.
There's so many.
Yeah. I'm managing a number of social media pages, but
you're quite the social media guy. I am not. I barely use my Facebook page. You should already say MySpace.
Yeah, really.
I barely use my Facebook page at all. I'm more on the Facebook page for my flag football team, so that we can communicate. That's. I find out whatever I need to know about Facebook. I find out messing around on that page. I have never been on Twitter. I don't have a personal Twitter account, but so this is new to me also. But I'm looking forward to really getting into it. It's really interesting. I love Twitter.
Twitter's amazing. I think between all of the social media, my personal Facebook, my professional or public Facebook pages, my Twitter page, my YouTube pages, my LinkedIn page, my Instagram page, I'm somewhere around 10,000 total followers at this particular point. So, you know, we're getting there, and hopefully we can grow Ben and Barry on football to way more than 10,000 followers, and hopefully we can, you know, bring some laughs and some fun and some knowledge for those football fans, because that's really, you know, who we're targeted toward. Not any one team. I'm not, you know, I'll mention my Niners, I'll mention the Giants, but it really is all about football. Yeah. So this is Ben and Barry signing off. We will see you, and have a great day. Thank you.